Buying a new house or buying an old house? That's the question. Well, that's the question I'm going to attempt to answer within this video. Just over a week ago, I put it out on Instagram to see what video you guys want to see me do next. I gave 4 options. I gave an option on the current market, the office market, refurb costs, or buying old versus new. Buying old versus new just won out just ahead of refurb costs. So I will go back and have a look at a refurb cost video in the next few weeks. When I sat down to make this video, I came up with a few ideas on how I'd approach it and what kind of topics I'd actually cover. But I really struggled to actually see how I'd actually make the whole video work and how I'd actually pull it all together and come to a conclusion. So well done, Instagram. You've really challenged me on this video because I'm struggling quite a lot to pull it all together and be objective in my conclusions. I really struggled in making this video. I had lots of ideas, I had lots of topics I wanted to cover, but I was struggling to kind of pull it all together and see how it would actually work as a video. But then it dawned on me, the reason why I was actually struggling so much on this video and struggling to stay objective on this video was because it all comes down to personal preferences. When you're buying an old house versus buying a new house, a lot of it comes down to your own personal preferences. So that's going to be my conclusion. My conclusion is going to be it comes down to personal preferences. And therefore, I may as well end this video right now. But in fairness, I'm not going to end the video right now. I will keep going on. And what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to talk about the pros and cons about buying an old house and a new house. Because I actually think that this topic is an interesting one to discuss, I'm going to break the video down into 2 parts. I'm going to break the topic down into 2 parts and create 2 videos. The first video, part 1, I'm going to discuss the pros and cons about buying a new and buying an old house. And in part 2, I'm going to look at the money side of things. So if you haven't subscribed already, make sure you hit that subscribe button and also hit the notification bell so you get part 2 of this video. And also remember to give this video a thumbs up. So as I mentioned, in this video, I'm going to touch on the pros and cons of buying an old house and buying a new house. As I said, it is a personal choice, and sometimes that personal choice can come down to the location you actually want to look at, as well as your budget. But generally speaking, these pros and cons are going to be on a general basis. Obviously, different markets or different areas will have more new homes versus more old homes and vice versa. So this is just the general pros and cons with old and new homes. So first off, let's look at the pros of buying a new home. When you buy a new home, you're the first person to live in it. Everything is brand new. You have that, for want of a better term, that new car smell, or effectively that you don't have that old house smell. Generally speaking, new homes are going to be very energy efficient and have very low running costs. Because it's a new home sale, most of them are going to be sold directly from the builder or developer, and the prices will be determined and advertised beforehand, so you don't get into a bidding war and you know the price of the property before you even start. Local property tax won't be liable on the property for a few years. You will be able to do a snag list on the property, as well as the property should come with a home bond which will cover off any structural defects for 10 years. If you're buying the property for under the Help to Buy scheme for first time buyers grant, you will be eligible for up to 30,000 of a tax refund. And also, if your builder is building on time, you will know when you'll be able to enter that property, and therefore you can plan around that closing date. So on to the cons for buying a new house. Generally speaking, when you're buying a new house, in most cases, they'll actually be in newer neighborhoods, and therefore access to amenities may not be as available as some older established areas, such as there may not be as many schools, there may not be as many shops, and links to transport may be limited as well. If you are buying within a large development scheme, if you're buying in the early phases, you could be sitting within a building site for a number of years while those other phases are actually being finished out. Generally speaking, new developments now, they will have a service charge, even if you're buying a house, until the local council take the development in charge. And in some cases, they may never take it in charge. And other cases, it may take years for them to take it in charge. So you may have a service charge with a new home. Generally speaking, newer homes have smaller gardens. The designs for new homes are quite standard nowadays, and it really limits the possibilities of extensions as well as a new owner putting their own stamp on the property. Actually, eco-designed homes or the newer homes that have very high BERs, high A's and B's, can generally not feel that homely because they have smaller window sizes. Also, they won't have real fires, and in a lot of cases, they may have ugly solar panels on the front roof of the building. When I say ugly solar panels, what I'm really saying is that in a lot of cases, developers will put in solar panels purely for a planning reason and purely to improve the BER. And in a lot of cases, they're going for the cheapest option they possibly can, and they literally do next to nothing other than take up space on your roof. Planning restrictions can actually limit the number of car parking spaces within newer developments, and this can have big impacts in regards to new owners being able to park more than one car. Also, visitor car parking can be very limited as well, so that can definitely have a negative impact for new developments. In new homes, generally speaking, structural issues won't show up for a number of years. And while there may be a home bond in place, realistically what home bond is a marketing tool for developers and builders to put on, that they buy and put and sell with the property. I don't know of many cases or any cases where home bond have actually paid out. I was involved in a development that had 50 houses in it. There was structural foundation issues with all 50 houses. Home bond refused to engage and refused to pay out. I myself bought a new house in 2013 and sold it last year. But a few years after buying it, I discovered that there was a major leak under the ground on the first floor. The leak had been caused by a nail within a pipe, that the nail had slowly rusted away and then had leaked underneath the floors. This caused a huge amount of damage under the floors, and the whole floor had to be replaced. The builder didn't get involved, and home bond wouldn't engage either. Luckily enough, the house insurance actually covered off most of the cost. It's also important to remember when you're buying a new home that 13.5% of the price relates to VAT. Also, if you are buying a home under 500,000 and you are a first-time buyer and you're buying a new home, that home is eligible for the first-time buyer's grant up to 30,000. The minute you buy that house, it becomes a second-hand home, and you immediately eliminate a large number of the people who are in the market for that particular home. And you could effectively devalue your home by as much as 30,000 the second you buy it. So let's look at some of the pros for buying a second-hand home. Generally, they're in established neighbourhoods with good access to schools, shops and transport links. In a lot of cases, older homes will have larger gardens and have better access to car parking. In most cases, second-hand homes are sold by private treaty, and therefore the price can be negotiated. Generally speaking, any structural issues will have shown up in older homes, and those structural issues, the cost of rectifying those structural issues can be reviewed before signing contracts. New owners can carry out refurbs and put their own stamp on the actual property itself. A lot of old homes have some very nice original features that can really add a lot of character to the property, such as large fireplaces or even just open fireplaces. So some of the cons. What are some of the cons for buying an older house? Well, the first one will be that a lot of them will require refurbishment. There is high energy costs as well. They'll generally have low BER ratings, and your running costs will be quite high. In most cases, the property will be liable for local property tax. If the property is being sold by private treaty, there is a risk of getting into a bidding war, so you have to be careful there. High refurb costs, it can be associated with new roofs, putting in concrete floors, improving insulation or drainage. The property is sold as it is, and there's no ability to actually snag the property. In some cases, extensions that have been put onto older properties may not have planning compliance or may not have been built in line with building regs. This could have an impact for funding the property, the acquisition of the property, or even selling it in the future. Also, it's important to note that some older properties can be listed buildings. If a property is a listed building, this could have an impact on your ability to make changes to the property. Even trying to improve the energy rating of the property could be difficult as well if the windows themselves are protected and you can't upgrade the windows. Another kind of major disadvantage of buying a second-hand home is in regards to timing. And in a lot of cases, the vendor could be in a chain, which could delay the actual closing of the property, or they may be looking to stay on in the property a little bit longer than you would like as well. So sales of second-hand homes can take a little bit longer as well. So these are just a few of the pros and cons of buying a new home versus buying an old home. I will, in the next video, in part 2 of this video, go into the money side of it. I will look at one particular area, perhaps in Dublin, where I will review a new home versus a second-hand home within the same area with the same kind of general features and see which stacks up the best. I'll also look at the Help to Buy scheme as well. So I'll run the numbers on this in the next scenario. But I do think it is important, before you kind of look at the numbers, is to look at the pros and cons of each, and also what your personal preference is as well. And sometimes your personal preference can be dictated by the area you want to live in, as well as your budget. So make sure you subscribe to the channel to catch the next video on this topic. And as always, thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up. Thanks again.